Hey everyone, it's Mike Andes. Welcome back to the Home Service Millionaire podcast. Today we are going a live call with a whole bunch of home service business owners that are asking questions. They range from $200,000 in annual revenue, getting their first couple employees, all the way up past $2 million in annual revenue, trying to figure out multiple locations and general managers. We're talking a lot about marketing, hiring, as well as pay for performance and how to use it in your business. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and roll this tape. This is a new member orientation that I do with all the new members at Homeworks. Here we go.
All right, thanks so much. So for some context, we're doing this year, we're on target for 350,000. We've got 2 employees plus myself. I'm kind of 50-50 in the office and the field right now. So we adopted P4P here my June or July, someplace in there. For my mowing crew, which is my 2 guys, paying my crew lead 13.5, my crew lead is 15.5% of revenue. My labor is 13.5%.
They get above base pay quite often with that?
Oh, all the time, every week.
Good job, man. That's really
they're
good.
doing phenomenal on that. So my question for you is, like, next year, I'm looking to hire a second mowing crew and make my current crew lead is going to take over mowing. That's going to be his baby, so that I can go start hiring and getting myself out of the truck for landscaping, hardscaping, that side of things. So on that side of things, how do I compensate my crew lead currently when he takes over to manage 2 crews, but also be the chief of 1, if that makes sense? Mm-hmm. And then moving forward through the winter here, like today, things are froze up so hard right now. We can't do any of the work we had scheduled because it's all frozen. So we've got some brush clearing jobs to do. We're maintaining trucks, but how do you structure that aside from just paying them a salary at this time of year?
Yeah. So 2 things. It sounds to me like he's not an operations manager. He's more or less leading your mowing side. If in this case, I would honestly just give a higher percentage on P4P because you still want his focus to be on doing the work. If you were telling me like, hey, we are going to make him a salary, he's going to hire people, he's going to do all the maintenance, he's going to be like the size of your current business, you still need him out in the field 98% of the time. You're just hoping that he actually helps this other crew get up and running for mowing. And in that case, I would just give him a higher percentage on P4P, and you have plenty of room to run if you're at 15, 17% on P4P. So if you gave him 20% or 22%, and you just say, hey, in order to get this, you just have to take these things off my plate. I don't want the other crew contacting me. If they have questions about a property, you're going to take care of it. At the end of the day, you're going to do the scheduling, whatever you are going to put on his plate. I would just tie it to P4P. That doesn't solve your off-season issue in terms of paying him, but I would highly recommend deploying your energy towards solving the demand constraint during the off-season and not just trying to figure out how to pay someone on salary or some other mechanism because you don't have work. I try to go get the work.
Yeah. So to follow up with that, we do Christmas lighting. We're in year 2 of that. We have snow plowing. I have a list here of hardscaping things to do. We're in Pennsylvania, by the way. So we've got enough things listed here that we can go do them. Problem is everything's under 6 inches of snow right now. So besides Christmas lighting, we're pretty much at a standstill waiting for the ground to be accessible again.
Yeah. Did you do snow plowing?
Yes. Yep. We did about 20 hours.
Residential or commercial?
Both. We have 32 commercial contracts.
So
32 commercial plots.
I think what you might want to look into is doing winter services for your mowing customers and batching in snow service and ice. Yeah, like putting on salt or whatever treatment you have. Mostly because like this is the reason I originally got into snow is because like same thing happens in our market. Once or twice a year it snows and it sticks around for a week or 2, and I have nothing for the guys to do. And even when we did snow plowing, I'd still clear the snow and then just wait. Well, with winter services, I still show up at their property regardless on a recurring basis. And we would just, if the snow is on the ground, we just like, okay, we'll put some salt down. And they always loved the service. Like for 50, 60 bucks, someone shows up your property, make sure all the snow is touched up, put down some salt. Like everyone was really happy with it. And it kept the crew busy too. They never made a killing on P4P. And that's the one thing you might want to change, Griffin, if you go this way, is adjust your percentage higher during those months because it'll be hard for them to hit above base pay otherwise.
Okay.
So currently we have 3 to 4 team members per crew with 4 full-time maintenance crews. So we have about 16 guys full-time, 1 part-time guy. Current issue we've been running into a lot is we've having a bunch of call-outs. So we're like overstaffed. And I was wondering what buffer you'd recommend having. So I'd say we need a minimum of 3 guys per crew, but we have basically 4 per crew at the moment just to make sure we can get all the work done on the schedule when we have people call out. But with all of our cogs and everything, it's like, I think our labor costs and all the associated stuff with that is around 65-70% of revenue.
Okay. And what services are you doing, Eric?
We do full service landscaping. So we do mowing, string trimming, hedge trimming. Out here we got palm trees. So
do you do commercial?
Everything on the property. Yeah, we have about 60% commercial, 40% residential.
Got it. Okay, that makes more sense because those cogs are a little high, but for commercial, it's not so crazy. Okay, in general, like I would say your cogs are a little high. Like as a rule of thumb, when you start talking about 70% of revenue is cost of goods sold, very little room for any sort of overhead. So any sort of sales, admin, anything like that, it's very difficult to squeeze that in. It's just difficult with commercial because you have less price, lever to be able to pull on. But what's your revenue? What's your revenue this year, Eric?
I think we're on track to do 1.8 right now. Last month we brought in 140,000 from our maintenance.
Okay, so you have a decent revenue per employee still. Okay, yeah, we always did 25%. We just assumed there was going to be inefficiency. So we just always looked at budget hour capacity, and I assume that they're going to clock 40 hours a week, but I only schedule them for 30 budgeted hours. So what that means is if everyone showed up and did 75% efficiency, we'd get all the jobs done. The thing is, most of the time they're 80 to 90% efficiency, therefore allowing some people to call out and we still made the jobs get completed. And so how I would look at it in like, you have capacity and then you have budget hours. So like how many clocked hours, let's say you have 16 guys, multiply that by 40, that's like 640 or whatever it is, budget hours or clocked hours per week. I would go 25% of that as what you're putting on the schedule, like off of that. So 75%. And then that gives you a little bit of flexibility to be able to, if some guys call out, your crew's gonna be more than 75% efficient, they can absorb the extra hours. But we always just use 30 budget hours per 40 clocked hour a week as like our benchmark and rule of thumb. And if everyone showed up, no one was complaining when they only worked 32, 33, 34 hours in the week. But if some people did call out, and as you know, at your size, there's always someone calling out, that's when they got their 38, 39, 40 hours.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I think we just kind of have like a scheduling issue there that we can definitely move some stuff around. And then the other thing, I want to consider implementing P for P. So right now, with the way our contracts are set up, for our residential side, our crews are bringing in 1,100 to 1,400 a day with those 4 guys. The commercial side out here actually brings in a lot more money. So that one's ranging from like 14 to 2250 per day. With us having to like move around so many guys and stuff, if we do like how PPP is currently set up, I think we have a lot of issues with the guys, like they basically making not less, but maybe like 30% less on P4P if they were moved from one crew to another. So I was thinking about just having kind of like a standard budget hours worth, like a certain dollar amount. Have you guys implemented anything like that in the past?
What do you mean standard budget hour? What do you mean by that last part?
So like the way P4P works, like, so let's say we're going to give them 33% of the labor revenue for that job. On the commercial side, it's 30 to 50% higher, if that makes sense. So if I was kind of standardizing it.
Totally. You could just have a different percentage for commercial. So if you're like, hey, it's 30% for residential and it's 40% for commercial, you could do that.
Okay, I think that'd be a good
And
way.
what you can do too, Eric, is in your items and services in the Copilot, just have 2 different types of labor. One would be commercial labor, one would be residential labor. Because in there, you then have what the P4P hourly dollar amount is. You could change it there too. So it syncs over to P4P automatically. And that way you wouldn't have to be changing it at the percentage level for every employee. Because I'm assuming they bounce around sometimes.
Yeah, pretty much daily.
Yeah, so if I was you, then I would put it in Copilot. Like I would not do it on the P4P side where you're changing the percentage per employee. I would be like, hey, this job is commercial. So therefore, when they're on this job, give them a lower amount. And again, support can help you book a call with Lael. She can make sure she walks you through this. But that way you would never, like it would sync automatically. And even if you move in between jobs, it'll automatically bring the numbers over correctly into P4P.
Okay, yeah, I think that'd be a lot easier because I was concerned about having to change the percentages every
Pain in the butt. Pain in the butt. Yeah, just like literally, if you do it, set it up correctly one time, you should really never have to manual entry into P4P unless like there's a manual adjustment or a yellow slip. You should just be able to sync it with Copilot and it brings everything over, assuming that you guys complete jobs correctly, like all the time. What I've seen some people mess up on is like they have a big commercial job where someone's there for 8 hours and a crew will come for like 4 hours. That gets a little tricky because how Copilot is doing is like, who was on the job and how do we split the revenue? And so if you have people joining halfway through a commercial maintenance, that's what gets a little hairy. But as long as you keep it pretty clean with your crews, not like intermingling throughout the day, you'll be fine.
All right. Thanks so much, Mike.
Thanks everyone for watching. One of the things that makes Copilot so different than any other software is we're not just interested in you using the software. During your onboarding process, there's multiple calls of support. I am having calls like this one with our members and really trying to figure out how to grow your business. We have a 365-day money-back guarantee, which is if you don't grow your revenue or your profit by 10% in the next year, we give you your money back. And we do that because if you can't grow your business using Copilot, we don't want your money. And so this really forces us to figure out not just how to use software, but how do you actually grow your business? How do you actually make more money? And that's why we have these onboarding calls. And this is just one call in a whole sequence of calls that new members get over the first year that they're inside of the software and with Copilot. So if you're considering switching softwares, this is the perfect time of the year to do it. And join Copilot, a community and a support network that is really built to grow your business. And so go check it out. CopilotCRM.com, book a call with Christian. He used to be my personal trainer, by the way. Great guy, so book a call with him and see if joining Copilot is the right fit for you.
So I'm getting into Copilot right now. I'm coming over from Service Autopilot. One of the things I'm a little frustrated about, I'll just let you know, I've already talked to Christian and Caleb from the team, but I'm trying to figure out the best way, because I do level billing. I'm out in Florida. I'm trying to figure out the best way to present that to the clients, because for us, they're used to seeing like 150 a month, not 1,800 for the year. You know what I'm saying? So on your pricing and your estimate, it seems to be that. And then they're telling me to add maybe in the text description a breakdown. But then I'm like, what is that going to do when I need to make a rate matrix? So let's say I have to make an adjustment. Do I got to manually change the number? Or if we have a discount, like those are the kind of questions I'm having that I'm a little frustrated about, to be honest. So I didn't know. What are you seeing in those? Like, I know we have the service agreement. They did tell me about the level billing. That's fine. But I'm talking about the new customer. Mike came in. He wants to know what he's going to pay per month. That's what I was concerned about, trying to pitch that and get closed on that.
Totally. So to their point, like I would make it for now in the estimate description. And how we present that is either their annual cost or just their monthly cost. And that's it. So like for most contracts, residential or commercial, it's like, hey, what's the monthly price? I know it's year round. Just give me the monthly price. So we just list all the things we're doing and when we're doing them. And then monthly price, all caps, bold, here's the price. Because I'm needing them just to accept. And then on the back end, I'm just, hey, card on file or deposit thresholds. So I'll catch their card information before they even click accept. So that's how we do it. The trouble, what you're bringing up is when I want to adjust everyone's prices up or want to adjust their rate matrix, where do I go? And in my opinion right now, Stephen, this is the part that we're working on here in the next couple months. And that is, if in the perfect world, you click a button, they accept it, and it's like all their visits are brought in automatically for you to schedule. Right now, you would have to create those one time underneath your level billing agreement, because there's no way to put a billing agreement on an estimate right now. You create an item and service that is your level billing agreement. It gets accepted, and then you create it into a level billing contract. So it's not a perfect match right now, but it's something certainly on our horizon and like something we're thinking about. Is like, how do you? So when they click accept on a level billing, it actually just comes over as a level billing contract. I know it's not ideal, but from a sales perspective to the customer, it's going to look the same. Like on the front end, it's just going to be a little more work for you to convert it from sold job into I've got to go now actually put it on the schedule. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Let me ask you just for clarification. You're saying, which I was already thinking this workflow, to make it where they see the monthly, because that's what they care about, and maybe put the total in the description versus the invert. That way they're not seeing that big number like 2,400 for the year. They're going to just see, 180 a month. Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay, I can do that. And then the small, medium, large, to piggyback on that, let's say we build out that rate matrix, we're doing level billing or whatever. What if you have just, I'm sure you know too, with like square footage, we do lot size, but either way, it doesn't matter. What if you have a little bit more than just small, medium, large? You know how some people have, less than 3,000 square feet, 3,000 to 5,000, 5,000 to 7,000, 7,000 to 10,000. So how are you solving that? That's my last question there.
Yeah, so in terms of how we build it in Homeworks, I can't give you definitives on that because it's still in production. In terms of how we handle this at Augusta is we have tested both of these methods, and that is small, medium, and large. We have tested square footage only, and we have tested square footage with the picture. Less than probably half of your customers know square footage of their lawn, let alone their lot square footage, let alone like they just don't know. They don't know what 0 to 3,000 is, 3,000, 6,000. So we have found it actually reduces the conversion rate because they get confused. But everyone can see pictures and be like, yeah, my house kind of looks like that. And so we allow for the pictures to be changed out so that you can kind of modify it to your area. Large in my market is small in like the Midwest, right? And so like we allow for the pictures to be changed out. I could almost guarantee you that when we roll this out, you will have the customization to be able to add things like square foot ranges. And some of our locations at Augusta do that, not so much because like they know they're giving up a little conversion rate, but they want that so that way when they need to raise the price in the customer, they can say, hey, Mr. Jones, we measured your property. It was 4,500 square feet. You selected between 0 and 3,000. Here's the evidence of that. We need to raise your price. But I'll tell you, like less than 5% of Augusta does it because we'd rather get more of the customers and 1 out of 100 just be wrong. And then we just have to correct the price. And in our fine print of the instant quote, we just say, hey, this is subject to change after the first visit. And so we've had that be the most successful for us. But I can say like when we roll this out, we will have plenty of customizations for you to do stuff like that, Stephen, because all these other services too are going to matter, right? So for example, like bush trimming, if you wanted to actually do an instant quote, you'd probably want to put like, hey, this is between 10 and 20 bushes. So that if they have 100 bushes on a 1 acre, you're not so there'll be certainly customizations like that you can add in.
Only clarification before you move on, you didn't touch on is, do you only see the 3 sizes though? Or you just found it better with all your locations to only offer 3 is what I was getting, like range wise.
I got you. Yeah, so we have a 4th one, which is like other. It's like, hey, if it doesn't look like this, click on this button. So that way we always capture all the leads. But what we have found is as soon as we go before, like just conversion drops. And again, like the whole objective of Instant Quote is like maximize people in my funnel. And then on the back end, I can make sure that I use a credit card to validate them, right? So like the credit card, having that forcing function is like they are actually locked in. If you just had a bunch of people submitting forms, it gets 70% of them, maybe 80% of them actually want the service. Then you send them a card, they don't fill it in. So having the card baked into the form like we are going to have will be the thing that you make sure they're a quality customer. Until that point, I'm trying to make it as smooth as possible. And so we found 3 to 4 max is kind of like the optimal conversion.
All right, thank you.
And small, medium, large, everyone just kind of understands. Like you go to the fast food, it's small, medium, large. It's just something everyone just psychologically gets.
So we're transitioning from Service Autopilot to Copilot, and my question's more on our manager. So my dad's our manager right now, taking the leadership. We just hired an administrative person, and this year we're going to finish off at 1.6. My next question would be, how should we hire a manager, or like when should we expect to do that?
Okay, are you talking about an operations manager, Mauricio?
Yes.
Okay, so right now you have someone admin. You have someone is someone doing sales?
No.
Okay. Who's do you have a sales function at all? Is it all instant quotes?
I'm doing she's doing most of the instant quotes, which we're getting because of holiday lighting and anything that you could measure by square footage. So she's handling most of that. And the goal is to simplify the services. So she takes on most of the sales and take the load off the operations manager.
But right now, if you need to drive by an in-person estimate, is that you going out there?
I go on there.
That's
I go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And then you're saying like, hey, now we need an operations manager. Is that the goal?
Yeah.
Okay. I would classify it in this instance, then we have what we call a full-time GM, which is the GM is leading the organization and then taking care of sales, right? It's the highest leverage task in the business. It's the thing that GM holds on to, but then they hire an operations manager and an admin manager. So from an operations manager perspective, Mauricio, what can I help with in terms of finding that person? Because I think that is the gap for you to continue growing. But what questions specifically do you have?
So this would be the first time that his tasks are delegated from the administrative side. I think it's more of, should we wait until the end of the spring, or should we start hiring before spring starts so we can see if it's a good fit or not? That's more of the timing.
Yeah, so if you look at the book, like 750,000 to 1.5 million. Is what we would consider the full-time GM, right? You're pushing up above that. And I think you are going to have a lot of stress in spring rush if you don't have someone to help you in operations. Now, the good thing is that it sounds like sales, you automated a lot of it. And so that is where, once someone has done that, they can kind of move back to operations if they want to. I think it really just comes down to, do you want to lead the organization, or do you want to be leading the crew out in the field. I think the kind of in between there, Mauricio, could be taking your strongest person in the field that has leadership skills and be saying, hey, I'm going to delegate these tasks to you, and be very, very like, don't be like, you're the leader without telling you, these are the 5 things you must do. And then in order to be that, you'll be the operations manager, but these are the tasks that need to get done off of my plate. So whether that be like, for example, if someone calls out in the morning, the true sign of an operations manager, in my opinion, when someone calls out, who do they contact? If they're still contacting the GM is still in operations. And so I would look at the 4 or 5 things you need this operations manager to take off the GM's plate, and then tie their incentive to that. So like, hey, if crews go down, you contact Bob. Bob's the operations manager. If your equipment breaks down, if a job site's going bad, you're contacting the operations manager. Basically, anything to do with getting the work done goes to this person. And then because you still have the GM in the daily operations of the business, you just got to be very, very detailed about what goes to the GM versus the operations manager. The biggest problem I see when you're at this stage is someone hires an operations manager and they basically kind of tag team operations, the GM and the operations manager. You want to get very clear of what's my responsibility as a GM and what's your responsibility as operations manager. And I'm not stepping on your toes and you're not stepping on my toes. Otherwise, you start getting a lot of really bad stuff happening at that 1.6, 1.8 range right in there.
Yeah, and I think that's a question because like we end up stepping on each other's toes because we end up
doing the same job.
Yeah.
So Maurice, are you in operations then right now?
It's kind of a mix. I've like anything that I was taking care of, like on the last call that we did.
Yep.
It's all him now. It's more like I handled this, like the sales part, and we killed it with holiday lights this year. And so
yeah, so like I would just say I'd be very clear. Like I would really encourage in your business, knowing a little more background to you guys, I would look at sales, operations, and admin. I would all of you want to talk about like what do all of us do every day, and I guarantee there's times where like, well, sometimes they contact me about that. Well, sometimes they contact you about that. That's where we need to create a lot more definition.
Okay.
Like if a truck goes down, who do you contact? If a job is going south and it's a project, who do you contact? Like these things need to be defined. It can't just be like, well, one of them. That's when we're going to start having issues. And the crew also gets confused. Who am I supposed to contact here? Like he told me one thing and you told me another thing, and it just leads to bad stuff.
It got very clear towards the end of the season, and that's why we're looking into like hiring someone else. We were hoping to do it by third quarter, but I don't know if we should try like spring rushes. Like,
do you have anyone in your field crew now that you think could serve in that role?
Yeah, I think we have 1 or 2 that we could.
Your dad doesn't seem so.
I assume I assume having those issues, the baby sitting my company. That's why,
I get you.
I put my head like that. But no, yeah, we have a couple.
I think what I would do for the two of you is like, hey, if you're trying to find this person, you could say, hey, let's list off all the things we do. And then let's agree on the person that we think is going to be operations manager. And then let's ask ourselves, what do we think they could actually handle of these tasks? Because you don't want to overburden them and lose a good person because you ask too much of them. And you don't want to give them a task that you both kind of still do. They'll get frustrated. So I would really recommend just being like, okay, if you're going to hire your best technicians, you're going to say, these are the 4 things you're taking off our plate. And if you do these things, you're going to get rewarded. And I would also say, Mauricio, together, the two of you create a 30, 60, and 90-day plan for that person as they onboard. Because they're used to how all the systems work, the equipment, the jobs. They know that they've been in the crew for a while. But give them a 30-day, 60-day, and 90-day benchmarks of what they need to be taking off your plate to be able to become the operations manager. And then have a checkpoint at each of those points with the two of you. So the two of you are going to have 3 meetings with them on a 30, a 60, and a 90-day. And each of those are going to have, these are the 4 or 5 things that you need to have done by that period. And then you're guys going to have a meeting about it. And if they pass all of those, after 90 days, they're operations manager.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
You got it, brother. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we run a fire protection company in North Carolina. We started as a hood cleaning company, and now we actually start getting to more like the fire suppression, installation, inspection, stuff like that, right? So we're currently using ServiceMate for sending quotes and everything. But my biggest problem is that we cannot, they can make payments, they can accept the quote and make payments before accepting the quote, but the credit card doesn't save on file, right? So my question is, with Copilot, once they accept the quote, they can make the payment and the credit card automatically set on file?
Correct. Yeah. Like in your settings, Pablo, you can just set it to where like if they accept an estimate, they have to put a card on file before they even click accept. And so it's one checkbox inside of the settings. In terms of that second part, that's what we call deposit thresholds. And that's where you can set how much money you need to collect from them based upon the estimate total. So if you want like 50% down on anything above $500, you just set that up one time. And that way when you get notified an estimate is accepted, you know deposits have been paid and cards on file, because they can't even get to accept the estimate without doing that first.
Okay, and following with that question, we're currently using Stripe to collect the payment and save the cards. Is there any way to get the card information that we already have, pass it to Copilot or not?
Likely, yes. So what you'll have to do is reach out to support, and we just recently started a new program where you're able to do this. It is a manual engineering process, and so there is a bit of a cost, but talk to the support team. They'll look at what you got going on, how you're set up, and see if we can do it for you. It usually takes a few weeks, but most of the time, if you're in Stripe, we can connect them back into your Copilot account, so you don't have to ask them again for credit card information.
Okay, and one last question before we go. I know that we're short in time. So we on ServiceMate we have so since we're in compliance for the cities and for fire extinguishers and all that, is there any way that we can create the forms on Copilot that we can, so that the technician can fill it up with the checklist, and like that fire extinguisher pass or fail and take picture on that form? Is there a way to do it on Copilot?
Yes, that's what's called visit forms. And visit forms right now, as it currently stands, are not in the Field Force mobile app. They're on the regular mobile app. However, that's coming up very, very shortly, likely within the next week or two. Visit forms will also be available inside of the Field Force mobile app. So yes, and if you're doing it tomorrow, download the Copilot CRM mobile app. But if you were trying to use Field Force so that you have all the other new stuff that's in there, that will probably be there in the next couple of weeks. Visit forms is what it's called. You can do check boxes and like, we have to fill in information, signature, stuff like that.
And does the P4P, that's something that's is already on Copilot, or that's like an add-on that integrate with Copilot?
It's separate. It's p4psoftware.com, and it does integrate with Copilot so that any information in Copilot comes over automatically, but it's totally separate. So p4psoftware.com, you can go check it out, get a free trial, and you can actually connect it with Copilot and see how it's working. But if I was you, Pablo, I'd get set up really solid inside of Copilot and then think about syncing it up. I see some people like, oh, sync them up right away, and then they create a mess for themselves. So feel free to get like kind of solid inside Copilot and then use P4P kind of separately, and then you can sync them up later.
Gotcha. Yeah, because we currently we only pay our technician by hourly rate. But one thing that I see that especially with the new technicians, they tend to mess up a lot of the tools or the equipment. So I'm trying to figure out to put it onto they not necessarily their paycheck, but onto their bonuses, so they can start getting they can get more the that tool, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's possible with P4P, right?
Exactly. And on there's free training too, Pablo. So I know there's a few members that use it from fire suppression, and so feel free, like in the Facebook group, you can ask questions there, but go get the free trial. While you're watching the training, you can kind of click around, throw some jobs on it, mess it up a little bit, and just make sure it's a good fit for you. But you might hit a thing or two like, hey, what happens in this case? Like, feel free to put it on the Facebook group, and happy to help.
All righty. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Appreciate you being on here. Appreciate being part of Copilot. Soon to be Homeworks. It'll be a lot of fun. We can actually change it. We can go from blue to orange. But appreciate all being part of what we're trying to do. And as always, on the weekends, I do the Mastermind. At the very top of the Facebook group, there is a place you can put questions and submit those. And then each weekend, I will make a Mastermind, send it out to everyone on YouTube. So love you all. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon. Take care.